All the ideas from Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel's book, The Psychology of Money, debunks the myth that financial literacy is just about numbers and formulas. The author shows that the biggest money mistakes are made due to emotions, biases, and personal experience, rather than a lack of knowledge. Through 20 engaging chapters, he explains why even smart people lose fortunes, how luck influences success more than talent, and why true freedom isn't millions in the bank, but control over your life. Interestingly, Housel wrote the book based on his blog articles, which went viral. He's not an economist, but a former hedge fund analyst, which gives him a fresh and practical perspective. The book became a bestseller because it answers the main question: why do I, a rational person, do stupid things with money? Chapter 1. No one's crazy. Financial decisions seem irrational from the outside, but they always make sense to the person making them. An individual's personal experiences shape their money habits. Someone who lived through hyperinflation will avoid stocks, even if it's unprofitable. Subjective reality is more important than objective facts when it comes to money. Example: 2 investors. One grew up in poverty, the other in abundance. The first keeps all savings under the mattress. The second easily takes risks. Both act rationally within their own experience. Before judging someone's financial decisions, you need to understand their context. Chapter 2. Luck and risk. Success and failure are rarely entirely earned. There's always an element of randomness. The same action can lead to wealth or bankruptcy, depending on circumstances. Risk is not just what's immediately visible, but also hidden consequences that will manifest later. Example: 2 entrepreneurs start identical businesses. One accidentally lands a client who leads to success. The other goes bankrupt due to a crisis. The difference isn't in competence, but in luck. Humility in victory and empathy in defeat are the only reasonable positions. Chapter 3. Never enough. The paradox of wealth. People continue to take risks even after achieving financial success. The desire for more often destroys what is already there. The wealthiest can be the unhappiest if they don't know where to stop. Example: a billionaire who lost a fortune chasing additional billions, or a modest teacher content with their savings who is richer. True financial success is knowing when to say enough. Chapter 4. Confounding compounding. The most difficult skill. The art of knowing when to stop is valued more than the ability to earn. On Wall Street, the wealthiest aren't those who make brilliant predictions, but those who stick to a simple strategy for decades. Discipline is more important than intelligence. Example: Warren Buffett became a legend not because he always bought the best stocks, but because he avoided stupid mistakes for 70 years. In finance, often the winner isn't the one who does more, but the one who makes fewer mistakes. Chapter 5. Getting wealthy versus staying wealthy. Magic of wealth. Small but consistent returns eventually turn into enormous fortunes thanks to compound interest. The difference between 5 and 7% annual return seems insignificant, but over 30 years, it creates a colossal gap. Patience is the most powerful financial tool. You don't have to be a genius, you just need to start early and not get in the way of your money growing. Chapter 6. Tails you win. The long game. Time turns out to be more powerful than skill in creating wealth. Successful investors win, not because they predict the market better than others, but because they stay in the game longer than anyone else. Long-term thinking turns average results into exceptional ones due to compound interest. Example: the S&P 500 averaged 10% annual returns, but if you remove the 10 best days over 20 years, the returns would drop by half. Those who tried to guess those days lost to those who simply stayed invested. Financial success requires endurance, not genius. Chapter 7. Freedom is the highest form of wealth. The true value of money isn't in purchases, but in the ability to control your time. Financial independence means the right to wake up in the morning and say no to what you don't like. This asset cannot be measured in numbers, but it surpasses all material possessions. Example: A person with an income of $100,000 a year, but a mandatory 60-hour work week, is poorer than someone who earns $100,000 a year, but has complete control over their time. Money should buy freedom, not just things. Chapter 8, Man in the Car Paradox. We overestimate the role of personality in success, underestimating the importance of circumstances. Economic systems and historical periods create more millionaires than personal qualities. When we see a wealthy person, we should ask not how smart are they, but what kind of car did they end up in? Example, Bill Gates was born in 1955, the perfect time to catch the computer revolution. A talented person born 10 years earlier or later might not have had such opportunities. Humility in assessing one's own achievements is a sign of wisdom. Chapter 9, Wealth is what you don't see. True wealth is an inexpensive watch on your wrist and money in the bank, not an expensive watch and debt. Conspicuous consumption often hides financial fragility. The most affluent people often appear ordinary because their assets are working, not being displayed. Example, a neighbor with a new car on credit might be poorer than someone driving an old car, but with $1 million investment portfolio. Wealth isn't what's spent, but what's saved and grown. Chapter 10, Save money. Savings are more important than investment strategies. Even the best investments won't help someone who saves nothing. Savings create a financial cushion that allows you to survive crises and wait for the right opportunities. Example, during the 2008 market downturn, those with savings were able to buy assets at low prices, while others were forced to sell. First, build capital. Then think about multiplying it. Chapter 11, Reasonable is greater than rational. People rarely act purely rationally in financial matters, and that's normal. Emotionally comfortable decisions, even if mathematically suboptimal, often prove more sustainable in the long run. A financial plan should account for psychology, not just numbers. Example, a conservative investor who keeps 30% of their money in cash, even if irrational, weathers crises better and doesn't sell assets in a panic. Their overcaution pays off with peace of mind. The best strategy is the one you can stick with. Chapter 12. Surprises! The history of markets is a chain of unexpected events that no one could have predicted. Black swans, rare catastrophic events, occur more regularly than it seems. Successful investors build plans, assuming that the future will always bring surprises. Example, in 2019, no one predicted the pandemic, but those who had a safety net suffered less. Another example is the unexpectedly rapid growth of Bitcoin, which many missed. Bet on resilience, not predictions. Chapter 13, Margin of safety. Financial stability requires a buffer resources for maneuvering during errors or crises. When you have a margin of safety, temporary setbacks aren't fatal. This applies to investments, money you can afford to lose, and careers, skills that allow you to find new work. Example, companies that maintained cash reserves in 2007 survived the 2008 crisis, while those operating at zero went bankrupt. In personal finance, a 6-month expense buffer saves you in the event of sudden job loss. The smartest don't survive. Those with room to maneuver do. Chapter 14, You'll change. A person's personality and values change with age, but financial plans often don't account for this. What seems important at 25, risk quick profits, might become irrelevant at 45, stability, children's education. A good financial plan allows for flexibility. Example, an aggressive trader in their youth often turns into a conservative investor closer to retirement, not out of fear, but due to a shift in priorities. Those who don't adapt their strategy experience stress. Conclusion, plan so your future, you, can change course. Chapter 15, Nothing is free. Every financial decision has a hidden cost. High returns mean high risk. Quick money demands sacrifices health, family. Even free advice is often motivated by someone else's interests. Recognizing this cost helps avoid disappointment. Example, Cryptocurrencies can yield 1,000% profit, but their volatility causes sleepless nights. Passive investments in index funds are boring, but don't cause stress. A free 30-day credit period turns into penalties if payments are overdue. Conclusion: before pursuing an opportunity, ask yourself, what will it cost you? Chapter 16. You and me. Different generations form different attitudes towards money, influenced by the economic conditions they experienced. Those who grew up during a depression tend to be overly frugal, while those who grew up during boom periods tend to take unjustified risks. These financial traumas are passed down in families as unspoken rules. Example: a grandmother who lived through famine keeps her money in the bank despite meager interest. Her grandson, who witnessed the rise of cryptocurrencies, invests in risky assets. Both act based on their own experiences. Financial decisions should be evaluated in the context of the era in which a person's views were formed. Chapter 17. The seduction of pessimism. Negative forecasts always sound more convincing than positive ones, though history shows that the economy grows in the long run. Catastrophic scenarios attract attention but rarely come true. Successful investors account for risks but don't become enslaved by them. Example: since 1950, 38 of 10 actual recessions were predicted. Those who pulled money out of the market each time lost out on the returns of long-term growth. Pessimism sounds smart, but optimism is profitable. Chapter 18. When you'll believe anything. Financial beliefs shape reality. If you're convinced the market will crash, you'll act accordingly, and it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Belief in economic growth similarly influences behavior, leading to long-term investments. Example: two people receive an inheritance. A pessimist puts it in a bank at 1% interest. An optimist invests in stocks. 20 years later, the difference in capital reaches millions, although the starting conditions were identical. Your financial results largely reflect your deepest beliefs. Chapter 19. All together now. Most investment returns come in short bursts that are impossible to predict. Those who constantly exit the market seeking a better moment usually miss key growth days. Patience is rewarded not gradually, but in leaps and bounds. Example: from 2000 to 2020, missing just 10 best trading days would have cut the S&P 500's returns in half. But these days often coincided with periods of panic, when most were selling assets. Conclusion: being in the market is more important than timing the market. Chapter 20. The history of money. Money is a mirror of human psychology. Inflation, bubbles, and crises repeat because human nature doesn't change. Understanding these cycles helps you keep a cool head when others panic or exhibit excessive greed. Example: the dot-com bubble of 2000 and the cryptocurrency frenzy of 2021 demonstrate similar behavioral patterns: exuberance followed by a crash. Those who studied history recognized the familiar signs. Financial instruments change, but human emotions remain the same. This is such a wonderful book. I have compiled a separate list of all the important theses from this book, along with all the techniques and tools, and created a step-by-step action plan that you can immediately implement in your life. You can get all this in my community, Place of Power. There, you will find a detailed text analysis with similar lists for each book being reviewed. The community has already thoroughly analyzed and made available to you hundreds of world bestsellers, with a new analysis released every day. Follow the link in the description and use it